We're all here, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the special board meeting on Wednesday, January 19th to order at 12:30. Roll call.
Charles Blacklands.
Here.
Kevin Boyles.
Here.
Tom Haglund. Ruth Nelson.
Here.
Jana Shogren.
Here.
Sarah Spear.
Here.
5 of the 6 present.
Okay, thank you. And just to know that this meeting is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota statutes 13D.02, and it looks like we're fine with the maximum seating capacity today. So we have the approval of the agenda as presented.
So move.
Second. So first from Director Boyles, a second from Director Blacklands, I think I heard first. Okay.
It's intermediate, Sarah.
It was a toss-up. Yeah, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, we should have a pretty quick meeting today. We have 2 items for our business on the agenda, and the first is after the announcement of the retirement of our Superintendent Lane Larson, we need to start the search for a new superintendent to start July 1st. And we have received proposals from both Exec Connect and MSBA. And they are attached in your board book, and hopefully you've looked through them. I did, since I knew Tom Haglund wasn't going to be here, he did reach out to me and say that he is comfortable going with Exec Connect, who we used for Superintendent Larson. And just because all the rest of you are so new, just a little history. We've used Exec Connect when we hired Clint Willard, and they had a guarantee that if, and it's in this current contract too, that if that superintendent did not work out, I thought then it was just the first year, but in here it says the first 2 years, they would do a free search. And so that's what happened, and then they found Superintendent Lane Larson. And both Tom and I are very pleased with the process that we went through and comfortable with the process. When I looked over, the price between the two is about the same. Exec Connect might be a little bit cheaper. I would recommend that we don't try doing it on our own. I think that would be a mistake. I think we need a search firm. But when I looked over the two, I think the School Board Association has, their proposal is much better than when we saw it last time we looked at it. I think they have a better process going too. But since we have the experience with Exec Connect, and since we'd be using some of the same people in our search, and also the other thing that I like about it is they have a 2-year guarantee if the superintendent doesn't work out, where MSBA has a 1-year guarantee. So those are my thoughts. If you have questions for me or thoughts, we can discuss.
Do any of you have any questions about kind of what the process was? Like when I went through, just to have an idea of what the process is. I do not know MSBA's because I have never been through that search, but I do know that they will go out and actively look for candidates that they believe are going to be a good match for when you determine what it is that you're looking for in your future candidate. And they will do a really extensive process where they kind of lead you to the top 6 candidates or so that they think are going to be a really strong match. They also will sit down with you, like we're going to talk about in a little bit, to do some planning about dates and what you want some of the interviews to look like, what you want part of that process to look like, and they do a very extensive job on that. Then once they're down to whatever you decide, if it's 6 candidates, you want to interview 8, whatever, then that's when you'll go through like a 1-hour interview with the board members being able to interview, and it'll be open to the public. And then they usually narrow it down to however many you want to narrow it down to. And in my case, it was 3 of us. So we had a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday. It's a really extensive day. It starts at 9 a.m. and gets done about 9 p.m. And it's an opportunity for everyone to touch base with each of the candidates, and it's a different candidate each day, but there'll be like an opening time where the board can meet with them right away if that's what they so choose, or the administrative team. Students will be able to come in and interview. The public will be able to interview with questions that are brought forward early and can kind of be assessed by Exec Connect to determine which questions are pertinent. There'll be another time where they would get an opportunity, if they wish, to meet with me for about an hour or so, and to look at some of the facilities and to talk about what it's like to work with the board and to work in this district with the superintendent. And then there's usually dinner with the board where you go out and then you come back and have one final interview, the board and each candidate. And so you would do that. Let's say you choose 3 candidates. It'd be like a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday. After Thursday night's interview, you would choose the candidate and offer the position to whoever you feel that you want to go into negotiations.
And that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we are not with the candidate the whole day.
No.
The service brings them around to the different groups, and we meet here in the boardroom for our interview around 5. The board chair and vice chair might be there to greet them in the morning, but otherwise, it's not the whole day for us. It's it's still a long evening, like 5 to 9 or something like that, where we take them out for dinner and interview them.
Yeah.
But it is quite a commitment, so
It is.
whoever we pick, we're gonna need to have a meeting, and I'm hoping it'll be next week to plan the schedule and the process.
Is there a difference between MSBA and Exec Connect on, the geography of their search range that they do, or? how does that
Well,
work?
you can pick that. It does cost more if you want it, like for advertising and stuff like that.
No, I'm talking about like, obviously they've got, Exec Connect probably has a database of
Okay.
like
yeah.
prospects, if you will, right? So their job is to take that database of, let's say, a couple hundred people that they know of that are theoretical candidates for a superintendent position. But then their first job is to listen to what we're looking for, go back and scrub their database for the people that kind of fit.
Right.
And I'm wondering, is their geographical footprint bigger than MSBA? Is MSBA confined to just the state of Minnesota? And for example, maybe Exec Connect might get into Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and Iowa or something
Yeah,
like
and
that.
they did talk to us about that. Charles, do you remember, they said that it was kind of up to us if we wanted to look outside of the state. Is what-
Right.
And Angie was there too. We did meet with them, so,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, is it the norm just to stay within the state?
I
No,
know
no,
in
we
my
had,
case, it was outside.
Yeah, we had a finalist from Iowa last time.
And
And
Rapid City,
Rapid
South
City.
Dakota.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And that's what I actually felt comfortable with with meeting with that individual was the range of, wouldn't just be looking necessarily in our backyard, but further than that too.
Right. And would it be normal then, once we select a candidate, regardless of where they were located, the district relocates them here? Or how does that
That's
work?
part of the superintendent contract.
That'd be part of
but-
the negotiations, I
Yeah.
imagine, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But-
But in the past,
Okay.
we have paid for relocation expenses.
No, understood, okay, so, okay. Because
That's
that to me
part
would
of
be the only regional consideration that comes into play, that.
Yeah.
And what was put into my contract is that you needed to stay 3 years. If you only stayed one,
Had to pay
you
part
had
of
to
it back,
pay 66% back and so on. And after 3 years, then it was paid in full by the district. And there was a limit, a financial limit
Yeah.
of what it could cost.
I appreciate that you guys are comfortable with who we've used in the past. I think there's less of a learning curve if we do that in them understanding the district and pulling together the right people. And I really appreciate the rigor of the groups of folks that they put together and just the opportunity for the public and for students and staff to be part of the process. I like how coordinated that is, so.
Yeah, and that provided a lot of good information to the board about the candidates, so.
All I said is have a chair. If you have a woman who has high heels, make sure you have a chair, because it gets hard on the feet.
Or maybe we'll have to
high
recommend
one.
bringing two pair of shoes to
Or
that
two
person.
pair, or tell them to bring flat shoes, yeah.
Yep. My only comment, I think, at this point was when I compare the two schedules side by side, it's definitely important, I want to make sure that we give proper time to bringing the slate of candidates forward, but I guess I personally like the slightly more aggressive timeline of being in interviews, if possible, by late March, which is an MSBA's proposal, versus being in interviews in April
Okay.
in Exec Connects. And again, I'm sure that's all negotiable, but I just think, provided they can get going and bring us a good slate of candidates, time is going to be of the essence. We're all, school gets very busy in the spring, and there are a lot of activities that all of these folks are going to need to meet with people, and I just worry the later in the school year that we get, that schedules will become more difficult.
Right, and it kind of, the earlier you get, the more it compresses the time for the search part that they do. So, but whoever
seems
we
to be-
select, we can talk to about that, and,
I mean, we're in late January right now. It seems 2 months to me seems, I don't know. I guess that's my question, is 2 months, if we were to be in interviews 2 months from now or so, 2 months and a week from now, to be in that late March. So it's just a question / comment that I would have to try to push it as much as we can.
I agree, you want to squeeze that a little bit if you can, just in case you get a first choice and negotiations fall through and you're back to the drawing board.
yeah.
Well,
Right,
these
that's
folks-
really what you're trying to hedge against.
Yeah, and am I right in thinking these folks might not only be interviewing with us?
Yep.
Yep.
So it's to our advantage to,
To get
while
earlier.
being prudent with how much time we leave for
I feel
the,
like we should do the Vikings
Slate.
head coach at the same time we're doing this.
we want our pick of who we want. We don't want to be behind someone else's
Right.
timeline.
Right, that's right. So whenever we meet with whichever group we select here, we can talk about that schedule and we can see if they can move it up.
If we can push it a little, I would recommend that personally.
Okay. Good point.
A lot of it'll depend upon your schedules.
Yeah.
Is how do we get 6 people together all of these times that you need to be available? Anyway, that's all I'll say about it, but.
Yeah, we'll have to look and see,
Yeah.
well, we might have to do some virtual with some of us if see how that works. I know there's a lot of trips going on amongst all of us, so it's gonna get complicated, but we can talk about that next week.
Sure.
Any other thoughts? So do we have a motion?
I move to approval of the Exec Connect Superintendent Search Contract and timeline as presented.
I'll second that.
First from Director Blacklock, second from Director Spear. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just that we would like to go back to Exec Connect and see if we can, what the implications of compressing that timeline on the front end are,
Okay.
per Director Shogun's point.
And it's not a deal breaker for me. I just think
Understood,
it's
but I
worth
think it's a
noting
valid point,
we
right?
should
It gives
move
us,
along again.
yeah, I mean, we don't want
I
to
think
dilute,
that-
we
I
don't want to
think-
dilute the search either, right? We
Right.
don't want to create garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think we can work with them on that. I'm not too concerned about that, depending on our schedules. So,
In respect to that comment, then, just in discussion, it may be a good idea to talk about, is there an availability for all of you next week that you could, if you go with Exec Connect, that you would be available to start the planning process? And I think that Chair Nelson has some suggestions there.
yes, I think I had Janet reach out to you, but since then, we thought maybe it might be easier for everyone. I know it is for Director Hagelin, if we cancel the tour next Monday and instead have a meeting, if that works with Exec Connect, at 4:30 before our regular board meeting, and do a special board meeting and go through all the initial logistics of the search.
yeah, I have no issue with that.
So the other option was 12:30 on Wednesday, but I know Director Hagelin can't be there, and I would really like him to be there since was involved in the previous search.
Yeah, I think you all need to be there for
Yeah, Would that work, 4:30? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then we'll do the tour another time, and, I mean, the tour was, I really wanted the tour because I haven't seen the high school and the pool and all that in South Campus for a while, so you could always call Scott Whittemore and set up your own tour, or Andrea Rusk too, so. But otherwise, we'll do it at before one of these special meetings, board meetings.
And is an hour and a half necessary for, are we looking at calendars alone, or, okay, I just wanna make sure that's a lot of meeting time.
Yeah, yeah. It might only be an hour, but I don't, since it's right in front of
Sure.
it might be an hour 15, so.
Okay.
And it'll give us a little break, a little rest break. Okay, so with all that, we have a motion from Director Blacklands, second from Director Spear. Any further comments? I'll just say that one more time. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we approve the contract and the proposal for Exec Connect. And we'll have a meeting at 4:30, a special board meeting at 4:30 to meet with them. Okay, and our second, thank you, everyone, that was great. Our second item on the agenda is the approval of the second reading of MSBA Model Policy 491, and I think Angie Bennett is here to talk about it.
Here to talk about it. So, as I'm sure you all know, the Supreme Court kind of overruled or put the stay back in place, I guess I should say, about the OSHA ETS, which is what prompted this when Minnesota OSHA adopted that framework. That has since then shut down the state's pushing of this as well. So we have a couple different options. I mean, we could stop looking at this and see if it comes back and then relook at it, or we can continue on with passing the policy because it does specifically state that it's only when these regulations are adopted and enforceable. So it's really kind of up to you guys how you do it. My one concern with just dropping it at this point is if we are going to go through the 3 readings, we may miss kind of the deadline of enacting the policy per the guidelines. So kind of up to you guys. The only change to the policy since it was last presented was on the first page, Director Hagelin had mentioned until fully vaccinated, kind of implied that everybody would get vaccinated, so I did change it unless they submitted a vaccination record to Human Resources, so that was the only change. So I'm not really sure kind of what you want to do. This policy, when it was brought forward, was one presentation you could adopt because of the deadlines. We chose to move forward with the 3 readings just due to the questions that may be arising out of it. It would be my recommendation to continue with the process because it doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's not going to change anything for our employees at this point.
It'll just position us, should something happen at the state level or whatever, it positions us a lot better as far as a timeline.
Yep.
Have we heard anything from the state about it?
Well, and really, it's going to be the feds that will push the state. So until, and my guess is it's going to be in the courts for some time until they make a decision about the enforcement of the federal OSHA. The state OSHA would really kind of mimic what the feds are doing because they accepted all the guidelines from the federal OSHA from what I understand, so.
Well, I would also say that the 6-3 ruling from the Supreme Court was fairly emphatic. In the sense that as we monitor what may or may not be going through the courts, you could probably expect that it'll bubble back up there again. And if it does, you would see a very, very similar result, I would think, especially since they sort of flipped on the healthcare workers. You can tell they were pretty decisive about how they viewed it. At least that's how I read it.
It's hard to say, you know, and I'm okay either way. I mean, if it does come back and we need to implement it, we can certainly do the one and done. If we do want to table it for now, I'm totally fine with that too.
So if we table it, we already have the first reading, correct?
Unless anything changes, yeah.
Or so we could even do the second reading and then table it.
I think, isn't that what you're suggesting? Is
Well,
You could do that, table it
you
on
could-
Monday if you want to.
you could do that too. Yeah, however you guys want to proceed. I mean, I think at this point, the policy is not going to be enacted. And so regardless of if we move forward in the process or not, nothing changes. for our district employees at this point. So it's just dependent if we want to pause and wait to see if anything comes into play again and then begin again, or. And I don't know, like, so if we were to table it and then all of a sudden it was enacted again 6 months down the road, I don't know if you can count 6 months prior to the first reading.
I don't know either.
I
We've
mean,
never had
that's,
that in.
I don't know if, in my
Situation.
head, it would be just starting it over again, because we would need to rediscuss what's happening and go through the policy again.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I guess I'd feel more comfortable with just tabling it at this point.
Okay.
Because down the road, it might be something different.
True.
So let's just table it and move on.
I'd be in favor of that as well. It feels like there's enough in here that might change, even as we think about base covering, you know, for the district, how that might impact this policy as well for staff. But there's probably enough that would change in
Right.
6 months' time that we'd be revisiting it anyway.
I'm on board with that.
Okay, so we'll table, lack of a motion.
And the other thing I think, just for the record, is that if you table it today and it does come back, you can, you know, talk about the fact that you have read this policy, you know, you've brought it forward to 2 board meetings, you only approved it at 1 of them, but you have brought it forward at 2 meetings, and so if it came through again that you could approve it in 1 reading, it would seem legitimate with those revisions, that if you chose to do that, to expedite it, you could do that, because with 1 meeting a month now, it'll take 3 months to do that rather than a month and a half, so.
Okay.
Yep, I think you're safe that way, but just keeping that in mind.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
So the future meetings are, and information are below. We just added a 4:30 special board meeting for next Monday. That's not on here, and then our regular board meeting at 6. And you have an invite here for the CTE open house. And then there's a big event in our next regular school board meeting, but there'll probably be other meetings added to this quickly after our Monday meeting, so. So with that, this is a special board meeting, so I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
First from Director Schrogren, a second from Director Blacklands. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in.